Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of bluegrass. You've enjoyed live bluegrass at Guitar Town CT concerts in Hampton, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hall, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. Hi, our guest today on Got Grass is Rhonda Vincent. I first met Rhonda when she played here at Guitar Town back in 2013, one of her 3 appearances here. Rhonda's been such a star and won so many awards. It's very clear why she's the Queen of Bluegrass, and we're very, very happy to have her here today. So welcome, Rhonda.
Thank you so much.
I have to say, I just saw the video of your new song, Please, Mr. Please.
Oh!
Yeah, and you know, it actually brought me to tears. Something about the message and the lyrics and all those beautiful people, young and old, dancing around, having a good time. It just showed the best and happiest side of humanity to me, and it just totally blew me away. I was so moved by it.
Oh, well, thank you. It was, I'm excited because the videographer was not familiar with bluegrass, and he said, well, you know, are you wanting to capture a brand? I said, no, I want you to capture the essence of bluegrass and the family and the kids and the banjos ringing. And I just thought he did such an incredible job with that.
Yeah, we really did it. Boy, having the kids in there and then the older people dancing, it captured the best of music and humanity. And in my opinion, it was just perfect. So.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. That was our goal. So and you know what? You're the first person that's really seen it that I've gotten to talk to. So I love that you feel that way.
Yeah, you had some bluegrass people in there, and you had some young people, and it was just it was a good summary of what the music should and is all about. So
awesome.
Great. So I'm sure you have lots of people like me trying to get a small piece of your time. What would your perfect day off look like without interruptions?
Well, I'm kind of a workaholic, so a perfect day, I guess, is getting to wake up and just chill out a bit. Maybe just sit I love to swing. I love to go out. So my grandson and we love to go to the park and get to swing. That's a perfect day. But also finishing a project. I'm usually recording, so I like to. I greet the day with probably 100 or 200 things to do. And a perfect day is at the end of the day. I have accomplished some of those. Like we recorded last night. Until 1 o'clock this morning. And then I hopped in a car and a driver drove me to St. Louis where I dropped him. And then I just got home this morning early. So I really love that each day is different and I wake up in a different place, different things. I'm not a person that likes to wake up and do the same thing every day. So I like that I'm in a different place, just doing different things. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad that you like to swing with your grandchild, because that's a nice, relaxing thing. It doesn't accomplish much except a little bit of love, which is important.
Well, yeah, just watching the clouds, it's like he's just learning to swing, and so he swung, and as I'm swinging, I laid back and I could see I said, "Look at the clouds, look at the sky." He's like, and so he kind of closes his eyes to look up. He doesn't really grasp that yet, but excited that he looks up and that he's just learning it. He's just 2.5.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a great age. Everything is new. So everyone I've talked to for these podcasts we've been doing grew up totally surrounded by music, and they all knew from early on that they were going to be musicians. Was that also true for you?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I knew that. It wasn't a life choice. It was what we did. It was an actual living, waking up each day. And my dad would pick me up from school and we would play till dinner. And after dinner, friends came over and we played till bedtime. So I grew up in a very musical household that was a concentrated life of music. 5 generations of the Vincent family that music goes back to. But my father had a car wreck when I was 2, broke his neck and not expected to walk. But he managed to walk with a cane, gained his mobility. He said, "Lord, if you'll give me one good leg, I'll drag the other one." And that's exactly what happened. And so I think from that point on, he made sure he kept us at arm's length. And even though music was prevalent, when he discovered bluegrass, or we did, 1969, we went to our first bluegrass festival, even though they were playing Bill Monroe. You know, we love Bill Monroe and Jimmy Martin and Jim and Jesse and Osbournes. We listened to all of them and they played country and bluegrass, a little mixed gospel. But when we went to our first festival, then it's like, oh, now I can take my family. I can keep my kids at arm's length. You know, we didn't go, if you took off, my dad would point at you with the crooked finger and say, you better not run. Because see, he couldn't chase after us. So even though music was still prevalent in our family, it really became something that we did. Well, when I was 5, we had a television show, a radio show, made our first recording, and we were touring, you know, in the Midwest and locally, and, you know, within probably a 4-state area. So I didn't really think about what I'm going to do. It's just what we did, you know, because people say, oh, when did you decide? And it was actually, well, I've had my group now probably 20 years, maybe 25 years. And it really wasn't until 10 years in that I said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Because this was something that I just grew up doing. And so to play festivals and to play bluegrass music was so natural. I felt like it should be more difficult or more, it should be something totally different than what I grew up doing. But in fact, it's exactly what my dad trained me to do, or my mom and dad. You know, they basically, it's a life of music, and it evolved into a career. And I mean, how awesome is that?
Yeah, that's kind of a rare treat. Most people have to struggle to figure out what to do with their lives, and you just did it.
I was doing it, yeah.
Yeah. So do you live now near where you grew up? You grew up in Missouri?
Greentop, Missouri, which is up by the Iowa border. 5 years ago, we moved to the Lake of the Ozarks because I said, you know what, I fly and drive in out of anywhere. And so we moved here. That's where my husband, he loves to fish and golf. And so we moved here, and at the lake, we're right on the water. It's very, you know, I got here, it's very relaxing here. That's a wonderful thing. However, we also have a place in Nashville, and that's two of my grandchildren. The 2 grandsons are within 15 minutes of there. So my heart is kind of there these days.
Right. Yeah. When you have grandchildren, which I don't have yet, but a lot of your decisions in life get determined by where your grandchildren are.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You want to be near them if you can. So among your family members, was there a competitive kind of spirit? Like, let's say you and your brother, Darren, were you guys competitive? Like, who's going to be the star? Who's better? Who's getting the attention? Or was it more just like getting along and playing together and enjoying it?
Well, people are surprised when they come to the show that I feature all of my band. You know, every one of them can do a standout. I mean, Mickey Harris could sing for days and never repeat a song, you know, and so can Zach, and every one of them can put on their own show. And I think it comes from, once again, my father. Because when I was 5, it was my mom and dad, my grandpa, aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. There was a large group of us that had the TV show, which is how we got the name The Sally Mountain Show. And from that, not to mention, there's a music party at our house virtually every night. So I grew up with this, everyone gets a turn. So I don't think that there was never competition. In fact, what my dad would tell me is that no matter where you go, there's always someone better than you. So do your best. You know, he always wanted us to do the very best and demanded that we do our very best. If you weren't singing loud enough, you know, he would push you into the microphone or say louder, or, you know, there was kind of on the job training, but it was he was telling you what he needed you to do. And I've really adapted the same scenario sometimes. I have to say, wait, this is not my family, but I have been known to shove somebody in the mic. You're just like, you're not in the mic enough. Let me push you into there. You'll get the hint. If we have a guest come up, and that's, you know, we had, if anyone was in the area, they would stop by, but everybody got a chance. And so there wasn't that competition so much. In fact, I would get in fiddle contests when I started playing fiddle at 12. And that's then 12, 13, 14, 15. I started getting these fiddle contests. And Dad might be the judge sometime. They'd ask him to judge because it would be at a festival. Well, he would give me a 0 because he didn't want anyone to think that he was giving me preferential treatment. So he really went quite the other way, is that you're going to get your turn. And you just knew that was, You know, on the other hand, he always said, don't let someone tell you you can't do something. Always determined. And I think that came too from his having the wreck, breaking his neck. You know, you didn't help him out. If he fell, he would get up himself. If he needed your help, he would ask. It was no different for us. A lot of people would look at him, and if he helped, they'd run over and try to help him. And he'd say, get your hands off me. You know, because he was very determined to do whatever he needed to do on his own, very independent. And but he, you know, he wanted the music to be right. He took the music very serious. In fact, he didn't want us playing games. Hated it if I went swimming, which was a rare occurrence, because we'd have a show in the afternoon, and he'd say we'd be deadheading. You know, we'd be tired, want a nap after swimming, and wouldn't have our full attention for the show. So he didn't want us doing anything like that. Didn't like us. It was really intense, an intense life of music.
Yeah, I can see why you're a good band leader. I
Well,
see where it comes from.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and you know, I had a friend and her husband was in the original one of the original members of the Sally Mountain Show. And she said she saw how we were raised and how intense this was. And she said, I thought that when I got old enough that I would just quit and get it. But instead we grew to love it. You know, we all through Brian, Darren, and I, we all love the music. Now, Brian didn't take that path, but you know what? I think he enjoys it and loves it more now that he doesn't have to do it. When it was a family, you know, he wanted to go play football and wanted to do all this other stuff, but he really also, all three of us, we have that love for the music. And now, you know, my daughter Sally continues. She's one of the newest members and the first female lead of the United States Navy Band Country Current. And
I didn't know that. Wow.
Oh yes, and she
Good for
just
her.
had our third grandchild, a granddaughter, Faye Monroe.
Nice.
And she, you know, so now she's 6 generations continuing with the music. My daughter Tinsel she's an amazing bass player. She doesn't do that as her career, but she plays in church. And so I love that they continue the music. And now we have the grandchildren. So now that's 7 generations. And Titus already, I kind of shudder sometimes because he has got great timing. Tinsel has a drum set, and I fear he's going to be a drummer, but that's okay. But then,
Yeah.
and you know what? I got the oldest grandma name in the book. I found out you don't get to pick your grandma name. And he looked at me because I thought I would be Grammy. I was like, Grammy's got a Grammy. And he looked at me one day and he said, Meemaw. And I said, don't you call me that. And he goes, Meemaw, Meemaw, Meemaw. So I'm Meemaw. He'll go, Meemaw, play your mandolin. Meemaw, hold you. But so he loves all the different instruments. And Tinsel and Brent, like Brent has an old dobro, and they don't like say, don't touch this, or they have instruments where he can, and he knows already, he strums them. Usually kids will hit the instrument or, you know, just kind of beat on it. He already knows when he gets to an instrument, he strums it and he can strum across the string. So I've taught him well. And I look forward to the day when he's already trying to play the mandolin. He can't note anything yet, but he shows a great interest in it right now.
Nice. So in your teenage years, was there ever a point which you'd said, I don't really want to do this anymore, I have other interests? Like, did you have a rebellion phase?
I had phases where I'm with the family. I'm with the old fogies, and I saw the other teens out there having teen bands, and they were doing the cool music, and I was stuck with mom and dad, and here I am playing the same old songs. I think really the time when I was very upset was probably early on in, I don't know, maybe 13, 14, and I found out, well, we're playing each night. You know, the music part of the music's the same. The people, they got in a circle. We played a lot of the same songs night after night. Carl Brenizer would come over, Paul Van Meter, everybody after dinner came to our house. And here we are. And I found out that Tommy Parsons and Barb Wheeler was at the skating rink. And I was not there. I didn't get to go. And I just remember after, it was probably 10 o'clock when everybody left. And I was so mad because I didn't get to go skating and I had to be there playing music with my family. And I remember telling Dad, I said, someday everybody in the world is going to hate music. That's the most pivotal point that I ever remember, really being angry. But then, you know, as I got older and here I am, And we're at the festivals. We're playing the festivals, and I was never one of the cool kids. I was with my family, and this is what we did. Driving as a senior in high school, because I was one of the youngest people in my class, one of the last probably to get my license. And we traveled at that time. We went from a station wagon to a pickup camper, a big camper on the back of a truck, to a 15-foot camper, and then we got a motorhome. And but before that, we got a 15-foot camper, I think, and we had a club cab pickup. And so I drove that pickup to school, and they would say, "Oh, here comes Rhonda in her train," or
Oh,
on
right.
my graduation night, we went and we did the graduation. And we pulled the truck and the camper to the high school, and got in the truck afterwards and drove to a festival and played that night after graduation. So, everything was centered. I might go to school. That was just because I had to.
Right.
But there was some sad times, I guess, through there. I'm so thankful now.
Right. Yeah. It's funny because when I was in high school, I guess I'm a little older than you are, but if a girl drove a pickup truck to school, wow, that was a cool girl. Up here, that was like cool as can be. That was like, whoa, we got to meet this girl. That was super cool.
You know what? That is pretty crazy how that works. Well, it wasn't a really great looking truck. It was a double cab pickup.
No, I know that truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
But so did you have I assume you started off on mandolin, right? That was your first instrument. Did you play that first?
Snare drum. I was 6.
Snare drum.
Got me a snare drum, a stand, and a
beat.
brushes. It was the only instrument that probably wasn't in the Sally Mountain Show. But I mean, yeah, I've always been keeping that beat, I guess, from the snare. At 8, we played it was Marceline, Missouri. And here's some trivia for you. There's a famous person that was his boyhood home, was Marceline, Missouri. And that was Walt Disney. And so here we are, we're playing at a country music show there. My grandfather's passed. It was just my mom and dad and I. And we're playing every Saturday night, every week at this country music show with a whole cast of people. Well, this guy, and I guess we started there when I was probably 7. At 8, the guy decided it was simple economics. There was a lot of wives that were singing. I was singing, but not playing an instrument. And he decided anybody who didn't play an instrument didn't get paid. Each musician got $10. And so my dad said, "Here's the mandolin. Here's G, C, and D, and you're going to be playing this every Saturday night for 2.5 hours." I mean, I only knew 3 chords, but I got that $10, and I don't think I saw that either. But mom played upright bass, dad would play electric guitar or banjo, or if he was a utility guy, he'd play anything. And then I was playing mandolin, so our family was taking in $30 on a Saturday night,
which was good back then.
We were thrilled. That's in the 70s, and we were excited to be there. And that was the amazing thing. Every country music star from the day came through there. I remember Conway, Twitty, Dolly. I got to see Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner when she was with Porter there. And I mean, everybody you can imagine. This guy also had a radio station. And so he had a knack. He knew who was about to hit. Jeannie Pruitt, who had Satin Sheets. She was there. I will never forget this. And I'm thrilled that we're dear friends now. But here, I think I was 13. It was 1973 anyway. It's very easy to find. But she was at the Frontier Jamboree in Marceline, Missouri on the Friday night that her song Satin Sheets was a #1 song.
Mm-hmm.
And I sang harmony with her. And dad played electric guitar with her. And I remember even she got $500 and she wasn't very happy about it. And she told them, she says, "I'm going to do this show for you. But because I have a #1 record today, you will never get me for this price again."
I know. Yeah. I was talking to Doyle Lawson for one of these podcast interviews, and he was talking about his time when he started playing with Jimmy Martin. And he said, yeah, Jimmy would pay me $15 a day if we performed. If we didn't perform that day or whatever, I wouldn't get paid. So they played twice a week, he'd get $30. If they played once a week, they'd get $15. And if they didn't play that week, they'd get no dollars. But he said he was so happy to be doing it. And $15, this is back, I guess, in the late 50s, early 60s. So I guess $15 would take you pretty far in those days.
Oh, yeah.
Interesting. So I was thinking about your band, The Rage. Many great musicians have played in your band over the years. The sound of the band changes, I guess, depending on who's in the band. But do you have like
Yeah.
an overriding vision for how the band should sound and look like in your mind? Like you just want to keep a certain thing going?
Well, I mean, I think the music kind of dictates that. I kind of established that in 2000 with my first Rounder album. I recorded, I think, 24 songs. In fact, I need to go back and look and see what the other songs are that I recorded. But looking for the perimeters and the styling. Ken Irwin said there's a void for hard drive women. There's no woman out here singing hard driving straight ahead bluegrass. And he was so right. And still, even yet today, you don't see that very often. So I think I found mine. He said, you'll find your niche there. And so finding that niche, finding musicians that also, you can't have a contemporary musician because the music doesn't dictate that. So I think I kind of keep an ear out, and when we're at festivals, you might not see me, but I usually have my window open listening to the shows and listening and watching for musicians, because you just never know when you're going to need that musician. That's the way I found Zach Arnold. We were at a festival together a few years ago. That was probably 2019, I think. And little did I know that I was going to soon need a guitar player at some point. Well, there was a on-stage jam, and he ran up to me and he said, I want to sing a song with you. Like, okay. So we sang and I remembered the blend that we had in our voices was very special. It's like, wow.
Mm-hmm.
So the next time when I needed a guitar player, he was my first call.
Right.
But, you want musicians that dictate. And you know what? Sometimes you don't know until like Hunter Berry, when he joined the group. I mean, I already had known him for a few years, and I knew the grit in which he played with. So I knew when I needed a fiddle player, I called him up and said, hey, to hire him. I knew Mickey Harris. When I saw him play, I said, man, I want this guy. I tried to hire him, for a long time. I would call his family. It's like, this is a guy I want in my band. So you just kind of know, or when you hear them. In recent years, there's so many musicians, and I don't know all of them. And I just literally have prayed to God and said, Lord, send me a great musician that is an amazing person, because most of the time is spent off stage together on the bus. So you want amazing people, and you know what? He has never failed me.
Right. I remember the band that you had here with Josh Williams, Hunter Berry, Brent Burke on dobro, Aaron and Mickey, and you. I think, I might be prejudiced, that was the best band you ever had. Of course, I wouldn't ask you to choose your best band, but that was a good band. You have to admit that was a pretty great band.
Absolutely. And a lot of people will say the one before that with Kenny Ingram, Kenny and Josh and Hunter and Mickey, that was kind of a pivotal point, because we did the Rage and Live DVD. So, it's interesting to me, even now we'll go in there and people will come up and say, this is the best band you've ever had, the best. So it's different for everybody. Sure. And I guess, for me, it's like bands change, musicians are going to change. So I think years ago, I would stress and worry, and it's like, what am I going to do? I can't imagine, but it's like, once I just you let God, they say, let go and let God. And that is so true. It's like, I don't worry about it. It's like, he has always sent great people. I mean, when Hunter left a year ago, we tried a bunch of different fiddle players, and then Adam Haynes ends up being our new fiddle player. But it's like, you try these people, and sometimes you just have, like Zach came one weekend, and it's like, okay, we know you're the guy. So sometimes you do know right away, but I find it, and now it's a challenge. It's exciting because each person brings something different, and so now it's up to me to find their strengths. Like they might say, well, this is not as strong as it used to be. Well, so now we're doing Adam and I. This is a whole new world for me. even though I guess Hunter and I did some twin, but we are doing like strings at the end of Beautiful Star and just finding new things to reinvent everything. So it's fun for me because we get to, we're working on a new project right now. In fact, we stayed up to 1 o'clock in the morning. Adam engineering, Zach ends up playing guitar, mandolin, banjo, and bass all on the same song. And we just basically tracked a whole song. He was just cracking up because he's never recorded with the bass before. He's never recorded with a banjo before. And so it was so fun to get to do that.
Isn't it so amazing and funny that all these musicians, not all, but most of them play 5 instruments really well.
They do. I know. Josh Williams
I've heard
the most talented of anybody I've ever seen at playing all the different instruments.
Yeah. I love Josh Williams. Tony Rice was my hero, and I think he was Josh's hero. And Josh played here a lot of times over the years. I think 8 or 9 times.
Oh yeah.
And I know Josh played with your band, and he left your band, and he came back, and he left again. I'm not trying to get into intimate details, personal details here, but I know Josh struggled with some addiction issues at one point in his life. And I remember when he played here, I think with Tony back in 2009, and I didn't realize at the time, but I look back at the video and I see Josh, how skinny he was and how gaunt his face looked. And he was wearing sunglasses all night and just, oh my God, he must have been suffering.
Yes, you can look at the photos kind of tell it all if you look through that. He's in a much healthier place now.
That's good. I was wondering if you still are in touch with I
yes.
Can't, oh, you are. Oh, good.
Oh yeah, he just filled in with us at the Grand Ole Opry, I guess 2 weeks ago. So yes, I love Josh. I love Hunter. Yeah. I stay in touch with them, and when we can, and oh yeah, you know what? Hunter's like the son I never wanted, and Josh is probably like one of my kids too. Being older than them and as young as they were, I'm almost like a motherly figure to them. Even though I would say we're on the bus, you got to clean up after yourself. I'm not your mother, but in reality, I probably am a bit of a mother to them too.
Yeah, and that's your brood of little chicks that you're kind of keep together and all that.
Oh
your little brood.
Definitely.
I just wanted to
and love working with them.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a little personal thank you here. At one of your shows here, you went way above and beyond to support us here at Guitar Town. I don't think any other musician would have done what you did. No details here to provide, but I just wanted to thank you. You know what I'm talking about, and you were very generous, and I never forgot that. So.
Oh, well, that's my pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
So you went to Nashville with your family band at some point, right? Were you going to try to make a career there as a family band? Was that your goal there, or?
Well, I didn't really go with the family. I did the show. Cool. It was 1985, and I did the show "You Can Be a Star." That was kind of like the American Idol of today, but it was for country music.
Gotcha.
And there was a couple of pivotal points. I did "You Can Be a Star." Won my day. I didn't win the week, but Jim Ed Brown, who was the host, star of the Grand Ole Opry, hired me to play in his band. So it was my very first experience away from my family. There's no safety net anymore. Before you're with your family, it's kind of like, you're at a safety net. But so now I'm with Jim Ed Brown. I'm experiencing being on the road with people who are not my family. I'm learning about the business. He was very, very generous. He was very kind to me. He featured me. I got to, I played all the different instruments. He said, I want you to play whatever. So I'd play guitar, mandolin, fiddle, play with Orange Blossom Special. I'd sing a song. I'd play Orange Blossom Special, did all these things. But I would fly in and play with the family. And it got to be a point to where it's like, okay, am I going to do this? It was like, my family was in Missouri. My husband was in Missouri. And I was living in Nashville. It was a nice, like a little test, 6 months. And I said, no, I'm going back home. And Jim Ed said, this is a mistake. He said, you are going to be a star. He said, you need to stay in Nashville. I said, I can't. I've got to go back home. And he said, well, they're not going to come to Green Top, Missouri and find you. Just let me tell you that. So I went home. That's when I wrote all of the bluegrass labels, because here I am still working with my family. And I wrote all of them, and I got one letter back in a positive way, and that was from Rebel Records. I said, I'd like to make my own record. So Rebel signed me, and I did, I think, 4 or 5 records with them. And then I had the opportunity to sign with Rounder Records. And, well, no, wait a minute. Before that, so while I'm still recording with Rebel, I meet James Stroud, thanks to Carl Jackson. I recorded a song, Homecoming, of Carl's, and we're in the studio. James Stroud is in the other studio recording a brand new artist by the name of Clint Black. And we met, and he said, I want to work with you. So he ends up being the head of a label a year later, Giant Records. And that's when I got my, it's like a college education. It's like just by learning, by doing, and by being there. And so I did a couple of country albums, and that was over, I think 90, 94 and 96. Those 2 albums came out about through a 5-year span. Not a happy time. And they said, that's where I stopped working with my family that I regret. It's like, but I'm sure it was all meant to be. But they said, are you country? Or are you bluegrass? It's like, are you committed to this country career? Because if you are, you need to stop playing bluegrass with your family. And then they would say, well, can you get the bluegrass out of your voice? And so I gave it, it's like, I'm going to give it every commitment that I can. So I quit playing with my family. That was not a good time. My dad was very upset about that because I was the breadwinner. I'm the lead vocalist and I'm the breadwinner of the family. And here I quit. So that was kind of the end of the Sally Mountain show at that point. But I did a couple albums. It was a money pit. It was not a good time. And it's like after 2 albums and 5 years, I said, it's like I learned from the best. I was managed by Jack McFadden. It was right at the beginning of Billy Ray Cyrus and Achy Breaky Heart. So I got to watch all of this and learn about agency, management, songwriting, publishing, everything about the music business. I got to learn from the very best, which was a great education. But then I came once again. I mean, I continued to live in Missouri, but it's like, all right, I'm not going to do this. We can't do this anymore. I was not happy doing that. And it was, like I say, a money pit. It was not a profitable thing either. Even though I'm opening shows for Alan Jackson, it looks glamorous, but on the other side of it, it's very costly. But so I came back home, put together my first band. It was Rhonda, Alan, Joey, and Earl. And my husband said, hey, I got the name of a group, The Rage. Rhonda, and then Alan, Joey, and Earl were no longer in the group anymore. And it was kind of confusing because it was R-A-J-E. So I changed it to R-A-G-E, and I signed with Rounder Records, and everything seemed to be in the right place at the right time. It was January of 2000. My first album on Rounder, Back Home Again, came out, and it was reviewed in the Wall Street Journal, which I had no idea they did articles on records at the time. And they said, Rhonda Vincent, the new Queen of Bluegrass. So there was some pivotal moments in that, but that was the very beginning. And I won my first of 7 consecutive IBMA Female Vocalist of the Year, now 8 Female Vocalist of the Years, but there were 7 consecutive. I signed with Martha White. I was sponsored by them for 15 years. And those are I think 3 very pivotal moments that, and putting together my band, we start to tour. I'm booked by, booked playing festivals. And it's like, I had never been happier. And I said, wow, and then, like I say, it was probably 10 years because this is what we were just, on the move, and like, okay, playing festivals, we're going to play. Then I woke up one day 10 years later and said, this is my career. This is what I'm going to do. Thank you, Lord.
Yeah. Wow. So the name of the band, The Rage, was that a subtle message to Nashville, like screw you, or was that just
no, not at all.
Okay.
No, it was just it was Alan, Joey, and Earl, and it was just a Rhonda, Alan, Joey, and Earl spells rage, R-A-J.
Oh, was that simple? Okay.
Yeah, it was just
That's funny.
No, I mean, you know what? And that's the crazy thing. I still continued to get to do, some country things. And I, even now, well, when you had Country's Family Reunion and Larry's Country Diner, I would go in their cruises and I got to sing country music. And so it's fun. And the Opry, the Grand Ole Opry has Opry Country Classics. So I still get a chance to even do some country music there with the steel guitar, which is my favorite instrument. And, my greatest dream come true. I had really here's proof that God gives you the desires of your heart, because I had given up on being a member of the Grand Ole Opry. I said, this is never going to happen. And hadn't really, I played the Opry quite often, but never dreamed that on February 28th of 2020, Jeannie Seely would walk out and say, how would you like to be a member of the Grand Ole Opry? I was stunned, just stunned. So my love, now I've been a member of the Grand Ole Opry for 3 years, and it's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah. When you were in Nashville, trying to be a country star, I guess, were they making you change yourself to fit their image of a female country star, like your hair, your clothes, your songs? Were they trying to mold you into something that would sell that wasn't necessarily you?
Oh, definitely. The music number one was like, I was at a time when Shania Twain was just coming out too. And so it was very more in the contemporary side. And here I was wanting to do traditional country music. Little did I know how much the music was changing. And yeah, they hired a stylist and they cut my hair, and they took they said, you need to stop playing all those instruments. You look like Barbara Mandrell up there. You need to stop it. So they said, you need to grab a microphone and you need to walk out and walk to the front of the stage and walk in. So I did that. Well, what I found out is then there would be new management come in at the record company. And the next one, the second album I did, they said, now, don't you play instruments? And it's like, yeah, I play instruments. They're just like, well, how come you're not playing an instrument? Why are you just standing out there with a microphone? Why don't you get, I'm like, so I found out that these people, when they hire them to do an image, they're not going to say, you know what, you're just fine the way you are. They've hired him to make some sort of a change or to do something. So they're going to totally try to change what you actually are doing or what they feel you're doing. Let me do something different so I can show that I've done something.
Yeah. Right.
So that was my perception of that, because, first you want me to play, or first you don't want me to play. Now you think I should be playing instruments. So it depends on who you talk to. Well, and then after that, after I'm not in country music anymore and I have my band, this was in 2000, I believe, 2000, October of 2000, maybe. But I had a chance to open shows for George Jones. Now people are saying it's band of the week. Are you country? Are you bluegrass? Are you bluegrass? What are you? There's always this constant that was a veil that was always over me. What are you going to do? So then we opened these shows as a bluegrass band, straight ahead bluegrass band in Salem, Virginia for George Jones. And we did our show. And when I came off the stage, we sold it was like a mob scene. They were there. They bought every CD we had. It was like money flying through the air. It was like, I still feel like it was in slow motion. And this, we sold when we got done in the matter of probably 15 minutes, every CD was gone. Cellophane boxes are everywhere. You can imagine the scene, because then George Jones came on. But what they told me right then was, I heard somebody yelling, "We love your country music." And I said, oh my goodness, they love my country music, but I just sang bluegrass music. So it's the perception of the listener.
Sure. That
That was a very pivotal moment for me to go, okay, I don't care what you want to call it. This is what I do. And if you want to call it country, call it country. But, it's bluegrass to me. But just so that you listen and you love it, that's all that matters.
Yeah. Was it difficult for you as a strong woman in that kind of good old boy bluegrass country world? I mean, did you have to go through, I don't know, any hassling or expectations just because you were a woman and you were not going to take any crap?
Well, I don't think it was like that. I think I was a new band leader. I'd never been in that role before, and I'm kind of somebody who does things by necessity, whatever needs to be done. Okay, this needs to be done. Let's get it done. And so here I am. I'm a new band leader. So I think I had a great tolerance at that point. Well, at one point, Tom, in 2001, Tom Adams and Mike Cleveland are in my band, and people kept saying, you need to put them under a contract, or you need to do this. You need to keep them in your band. This is the greatest band ever. And it was a wonderful, wonderful experience. I didn't know what they were talking about. Well, ends up they quit. Tom and Mike, the whole band quit at one point. And I realized that it doesn't matter how good you treat someone or how much money that you pay them, if they're not happy there, if you're not on the same page, then they can't be there. And that was learning by going on. And then, I've traveled with everything from, addiction, alcoholism, sexual innuendos. And as the years went on, and I guess I got more confidence, or as with the more success you have, there's a confidence that comes with that. And then I think I was really surprised too, because people would tell me, it's like, man, I got to find a new band members, or I got to find a new band member. And they're like, man, everybody wants to play with you. I'm like, really? I didn't have that perception. There's like, you won't have any trouble finding anybody. Yes, they said they love your music. It's like, okay. And so what I found is you want to find the people that actually want to be in the band and that want to be there. And if they don't, no contract, no amount of money, nothing's going to keep them there. So my tolerance for any of that, if you're drinking, then you can't, and you're, I don't know, obnoxious, whatever your behaviors, if it doesn't align with what we're doing, you can't be here anymore. And I finally, or if it's the music isn't right, I have to have band members. Number one, it's the music. And number two, I say we're going to have fun. And if we can't do both, make great music and have fun doing it, then we don't need to be doing this. So I think over the years, I adapted my, template, I guess, of what I'm looking for, or, here. And it's Aaron McDaris. He always says, it's not that difficult. You basically just do your job. But people would show up with a different agenda. Maybe they wanted to be a solo artist. If you want to be a solo artist, then go be a solo artist. But if you're in here, you're a member of Rhonda Vincent and the Rage, and you're a member of a team. So I think that's probably the greatest disconnect is, people come in and they want to do, they were upset if they didn't get featured. It's like, listen, that's my choice. And it's based on the show. It's not based on, I'm just going to check a box and make sure that everybody gets featured, but the show is number one. And if I don't feature them one night, I had a band member that he would pout and be very upset if he didn't get featured that certain night. But, it's what the show dictates. If they are applauding more for the banjo, probably Aaron McDaris is going to get featured more that night, or the fiddle or the dobro or whatever people seem to be, they really love.
So you react to what's going on and just make it all work.
We don't use a set list, and it's done really by the heart. How do we feel? How does this feel? What are people responding to? So yeah, I just kind of read the audience, and how do we feel? And our show, I just kind of call out the songs. Sometimes I don't even call them out. The other night I started into a song, and they completely misread my introduction of the song, and we did a different song than they thought.
That's funny. That's funny.
But you know what? It keeps them on their toes.
Of course.
Yeah. I like that. And you know what? It keeps my mind. It's like, okay, I got to figure out what the next song's going to be. While I'm doing this song, I'm thinking about what's the next song, or what's the next set of songs. I usually do it in 15-minute sets, according to the key that we're in. But there's a method to the madness, but most people don't know that or see that.
Of course they don't. It's funny. I was talking to Missy Raines, and she said when she first had her band, she was leading the band, and she would go after the show to the promoter and say, I want to get paid. He would say, send like one of the guys over that's, and she said, no, it's my band. I'm leading the band. You pay me. They just assumed because she was a woman bass player, she wasn't important. It was weird.
Oh, I see. Well, I can't, I hear a lot of women that say, oh, they won't hire me because I'm a woman. I guess I've never really run into that. As far as having any issues because I'm a woman. I love that. I think we have opened some doors because there was a festival and they said, they were a long running festival. He said, we've never had a female headliner. You are the very first ever female headliner. It's like, awesome. So I think that a lot of that's changed, but it's still, a lot of it hasn't. It's still kind of a boys club. But my dad always said, don't let anybody tell you can't do something. So I just never let it bother me or worry about it.
Yeah. So,
Rhonda, deal if you're a sideman. If you were a female, I know personally of people that I have given my best advice to. I don't know if they took it or even tried it, but there's some female musicians. There were openings in bands, prominent bands, and they tried to get it, and they said, oh no, we're not going to hire a woman. And she said, what do I do? I said, well, if I wanted to prove myself, I would say, okay, I want this job. And I know I'm a woman, but let me prove to you, I will work for you for a couple weeks for free. Let me go. So let me see. You tell me, can I do the music? Do I travel well with you? You know, because it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You got people that just don't travel well. They've got their stuff everywhere, or for whatever reason, they can't shower on the bus or whatever. And so I told her, I said, I would go and say, you know what, you give me a chance. Don't give him any reason to say no. Tell him you'll work for free for a couple of weeks, maybe even a month if that's what it takes to get the job, but do whatever you have to do to get that job.
Yeah. So, being a band leader, you have a record label, you record and perform with all kinds of people and all kinds of places. It seems like an exhausting life to me. What motivates you to keep going at this pace and at this time in your life? Like keep cranking along.
Well, I love the music, number one.
Yeah.
You know, that's the number one thing, is loving the music. I'm at a different place in my life. Thank goodness. You know, Herb says I should retire, and I could retire. And that's the wonderful thing, is that if I didn't want to do this now, I wouldn't have to, that I could stay home. And so now I get to do it because I love it. And because I want to do this, because I love it so much, and I don't have to worry about that. So it gives me it's yet another level of confidence, and of, you know what, if I don't want to do that, I'm not doing that. But it really it's a great place to be. I think, you know, I do things now very intentional. It's like, I love to do this. Do you want to do this? Yes, I do. Or if I don't want to do that, I don't have to do that. So it's a nice place to be.
Yeah. I was chatting, I said, with Doyle Lawson recently. He was talking about his time with Jimmy Martin in his band, who was known as the King of Bluegrass. And I got to thinking, if the King of Bluegrass and the Queen of Bluegrass had a royal family, who would the prince and princess be? It's kind of an oddball question. I don't even know if you can answer. I was just thinking about that. Like, you're the queen, he was the king. Who would the prince and princess be? Yeah, funny. It's just it's a rhetorical question. We don't have to answer it. We can move on.
Yeah, I'll have to think about that.
That's a tough one.
Well,
Yeah.
some people, just for the obvious, they call my daughter, you know, that she's the lady in waiting, the princess.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
just because we're related, though, that's not and she sings too, but.
So a lot of the younger bluegrass people these days go to college to study, and they come out reading music. Obviously, most of the earlier players played only by ear. Maybe they learned shape note singing. Where do you fit into that? Do you learn new tunes by ear? Do you read music?
I play strictly by ear, never lessons, never get us started on an instrument. You know, I was on the job training. By the time I was 5, and we're playing every day. You know what? And that's what I see. There's no replacement for just the experience of playing. You know, people will say, what should I do? I said, well, take every moment to play, because you don't know what type of experience you're going to be in. So say, for instance, you know, when we played at Silver Dollar City, this was early on, but we were staff musicians at Silver Dollar City in Branson, Missouri. It's a theme park.
Right.
And we played there 5 days a week. We did 5 1-hour shows per day, Monday through Friday, starting at 8 a.m. Friday night, we drove to a festival. Saturday, Sunday, we played the festival. Sunday night, we drove back. We're playing at 8 a.m. on Monday morning. And you talk about, you know, really perfecting your craft and getting a chance to play. You're performing in front of people. So if there's a scenario for something to go wrong, the strap breaks, or your dress rips, or your whatever it might be, you get a chance to experience all of that. And that was a great place to take a family. And even now I tell people, you know, there's Dollywood, there's all kinds of theme parks that have music like that you can get your experience. And I remember one of the coolest times, and I thought to myself, I should be so nervous, but I was at the most calmest place, and I thought to myself, it's because my dad prepared me for this very moment. But I performed on the CMA Awards with Dolly Parton and Norah Jones, and here I was. I'm standing on stage in the band, singing with Dolly and Norah Jones, and I look over, and there's Brian Sutton, and there's Stuart Duncan, and there's Jerry Douglas, and I think to myself, this is the moment that I should be nervous, but I'm not, because I have every confidence in every person that stands on this stage. And as long as I know my part, and I've been through every, you know, scenario, because performing with my family, it was the most calmest time ever.
Oh, Wow. Yeah. I guess your Zen was just like tuned into what you had become, and you just fit in with that whole scene perfectly. Then
It was amazing.
you were one of them. Yeah. Interesting you should bring that up because a lot of the young bluegrass players I've noticed in the bands are very obviously very good players, but a lot of them don't have what you're talking about, which is the years of experience being in front of a crowd, that you're really there to entertain the crowd, not just show off how well you can play the guitar.
Right.
And I feel,
Or turn around and tune, or yeah, it's like
yeah,
engage your
there's,
audience.
yeah, I noticed that with a lot of these bands that really don't connect. I mean, it's a skill, I guess, you learn over time. You have to, right, you have to face the audience, you have to smile at them, connect with somebody, tell a joke, say something. You can't just turn your back and tune your mandolin in between
Right.
songs.
Or just leave dead air on the, I see so many do that. And the other
Yeah.
thing is they want to right away. I want to have a bus. I want to have this. No, when I had my band, I started out in a Buick LeSabre. There was four of us and we put the bass over the seats in the middle and traveled in a Buick LeSabre. Then I got a Cadillac, then I got a Suburban, then I got a Suburban and a trailer. And then finally I got a bus. It's, to me, every person that graduates high school, you don't get your diploma until you can balance your checkbook, because really life is about, but you're gonna have to work and you're gonna have to pay your bills and you're gonna have to really budget that out. And that's when I did go to college for a few years, and my major was accounting, and I took a lot of photography classes, and everything that I took some business law. It all helps to what I ended up doing. The photography helps, the accounting really helps, because I just see so many of these youngsters, and they, I want a boy, I want a bus, I want to no, because really the audience doesn't care what you travel in. They care about the music when you get there.
Right. Um, so people like Molly Tuttle and Sierra and Billy Strings are drawing huge crowds, including lots of people who probably are new to bluegrass music. Do you like where those young people are taking the music these days?
I watch Billy, he's doing hard driving bluegrass straight away. I love it. That's
Yeah.
so exciting for the music. In fact, I just read an article that said there's a resurgence for bluegrass right now, and there's a residual effect for everybody. So I love it. It's awesome. It is
Yeah.
really awesome.
Do you still get nervous when the MC calls out, please welcome Rhonda Vincent and the Rays? Do you get nervous or excited, or what's that feeling when they call it out still?
I mean, day to day, it's probably, it depends on if we're in a different situation. Sometimes at the Opry, and you look over and you've got Vince Gill standing there along with Connie Smith, along with Carrie Underwood, or Brad Paisley, whoever is standing over there. Trisha Yearwood was there the other night, and Garth Brooks, and I had no idea until I came back off there. I'm like, oh my gosh, look who's standing over there. So sometimes if you let that get in your mind, and especially if you don't really know, you have to have rehearsed and know your song, and know your lyrics, know what you're going to do. So if I have a new song, sometimes I get a little, it's like, oh man, I get some nerves, because it's like, I don't really know this song that well. I want to do it for the first time. But sometimes at the Opry, but day to day playing festivals, that's so familiar and so exciting. I mean, that's just like being home. It's like, it's okay. But you never know. We worked with Larry Sparks on Saturday. So it's almost like a wonderful family reunion, because it's like so many familiar faces, and you go, this is awesome that I'm here with a legend like Larry.
Yeah. Is there anybody in music, bluegrass or otherwise, that you would like to maybe sing a duet with and never got the chance? And
Yes,
yes.
that would be James Taylor.
Oh.
I am a huge James Taylor fan, and I had been in contact, and I was going to do a song with him. And then I don't know, the song didn't work out, so I didn't pursue it anymore. In fact, Bernie Taupin, I was with him one night. We're dear friends, and he was going to call him and just let me. I was like, no, no, no. I said, when I meet James Taylor, I don't want it to be like, oh, I love you so much. I want to either be singing with him or be in the right setting, not just calling on Bernie's phone and talking to James Taylor and gushing over him. So I figured he would think that was a little weird, because I probably doesn't even know who I am. So, but someday I have reached out to his people at one point, but it wasn't a good timeline for him, and the song didn't work out. So I got to find me another song, and hopefully that I'll get to do that someday.
I bet he knows who you are. I bet he does. So with someone like James Taylor, is it because you think your voices would blend well, or do you just like his personality, the emotion of his songs? What about him would
I
make it
just
work?
love his music. I love his
Yeah.
songs. I love his playing, his voice. You know, I love everything about James Taylor. I think he's so amazing. One of my favorite artists. And that's another thing. I'm a little scared to meet him. You know how they say you meet your heroes, and sometimes it doesn't go that well. But he also seems to be like a very dear human being. So you know, someday I hope to do that. I have to do that at some point, good or bad or otherwise. I will, but you know, I want it to be at the right moment. It's so important to me that I don't just want to say I met James Taylor. I want it to be a very pivotal moment.
Well, it sounds like things in your life do eventually come to you for whatever reason. So that probably will happen too.
I hope
Probably
so.
will.
Hope so.
Maybe God, you were mentioning God before. You said he. Is God a he to you, or just?
He is a he. He's a father. Yeah.
He's a father too. Yeah.
Father. Yes. That's what, you know, the Bible says. How do you pray? Our Father who art in heaven. So.
Right. I have a non-music question here, which is we're going to wind this up shortly, but these non-music questions sometimes seem to be hard for people to answer. What would people be surprised to learn about you? It's not really a fair question, but whatever.
What would they be surprised?
Nothing crazy, just.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I don't know what they would be surprised to learn, you know, because that's too familiar for me. But now Sally says sometimes that, you know, because I think there's an illusion that might be what they'd be surprised, you know, because I dress up and fix my hair and my makeup. And so Sally goes, oh, once the glass breaks, which means once they really reveal to see how I am. Like this morning, probably what they would be surprised is on my journey back here, I wear my favorite pajamas to wear to bed are men's extra large Carhartt long handles, or what do you call them, thermal underwear. So that's right, because people envision me in these beautiful gowns or lingerie or whatever. So
of course,
but in reality, I would much rather throw on, you know, always socks and a cotton socks and long handles, and not fix my hair and no makeup. And so that's probably the most surprising thing. Though I do get on Facebook Live without makeup and with my hair in a mess sometimes. So maybe they wouldn't be that surprised these days. But before that, you know, like we played, I don't know how many days in a row. This was last year, I think. And we were on our way home. It was a long journey. Didn't expect to see anybody that we knew, but we woke up at a truck stop one morning. I literally got out of bed, barely had my eyes open, did not run a brush through my hair or anything. And I mean, I got out of the bus to cars of fans sitting there in front of the bus. And they're like, oh, we want to get a picture. And I'm like, I don't think this is a good time. They said, you do a Facebook Live all the time with no makeup and your hair messed up. It's like, you know what? You're right. Let's get the picture. So I took pictures with these people. I can't imagine what it looks like. But you know what? I'm
good for you.
My hope is that, you know, I always say what you see is what you get. And I hope that people always say they're surprised that they said, you're real. And it's like, yeah, I try to be, you know, what you see on Facebook most of the time. Now I got a call from my doctor, and she said, Rhonda, you should not put all your life on Facebook. You shouldn't be doing that. And I said, Lisa, they only see what I want them to see. I'm not, you know, we're not putting cameras up in our house. And then she said, you know what? So my doctor, she said, I liberated her, and now she's on Facebook because she realizes, you know, it's your personal life, but it's not everything. So it's okay.
Sure. Is there anything else you'd like to say to our millions of podcast listeners? Not millions yet, but maybe someday. Anything else you'd like to end with? Any special thoughts or advice?
I think it's, you know, I think it's family music, and I think it's something that if people listen to the music, that they will love it. So yeah, I would encourage you to give the music a try, give it a listen. Check out come to our shows at rhondavincent.com. You can see where we are, stay in touch, on all the social media sites. And, we just hope to see you somewhere down the line. Many blessings to everyone.
Yeah. Well, I really want to thank you, Rhonda, for sharing your thoughts and memories with us. I think our listeners are really going to enjoy listening to what you had to say. You're a great, wonderful, and generous person, and I hope to catch up with you again someday in person. So,
well, same here.
Maybe
I hope
someday.
to see you soon. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks again.
Care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.